Okay, guys, we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. This is episode 22. I'm Seth from the Lone Stunner podcast. We're going to talk about some of the boxing that happened last night. Obviously, by the time this video comes out, it'll be a week or so later. But we're coming off the back of the Dereck Chisora v Otto Wallin fight and the Dricus Du Plessis and Strong Strickland fight for the UFC Middleweight Championship. We'll kick it off with the Dereck Chisora fight. So this was a title eliminator for the IBF World Heavyweight Championship, meaning that likely the winner of that fight will get to face Daniel Dubois. And Dereck Chisora, once again, he turns back the clock once again and is successful in a win against Otto Wallin. I did pick Dereck Chisora to win that fight. I said it would be closer than it was. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with Otto Wallin. Of course, I've seen his two biggest losses. His two biggest fights, which were losses, obviously against AJ and Tyson Fury. But these were a few years ago now. Looking at Otto Wallin, he looked pretty soft. I don't know if he always looks like that, though. I'm not sure if that's just how Otto Wallin looks. So this is just normal for him. But he looked pretty soft. His gas tank sort of sustained for the length of the fight. But obviously he was getting pressured and he was holding big shots from Chisora from the first round. And even resulted in Chisora dropping him twice in the 9th and the 12th. Both of them kind of look like weird knockdowns where they kind of look like they might have been like Otto Wallin was like off balance and got hit. And it wasn't like he got knocked out and rocked and was in serious danger of the fight ever getting stopped. That was definitely not the case. Dereck Chisora he had a couple cuts on his face and had the doctor look at it and see what happens there. But obviously the doctor let the fight carry on and Dereck Chisora carried on boxing and then boxed his way to a 12-round decision. I think this is the thing with Chisora. You don't see him fight for a while and you're like, yeah, Chisora, he's probably finished. But then you watch him, you're like, bro, you just love this guy. You just love to see it. Chisora, he goes out there, he applies pressure, big shots, body shots, shots to the head. He's pushing guys. He's putting you against the ropes. He's throwing shots. He's the type of boxer who's really, he's willing to take 2 or 3 punches for him to land 2, 3, 4 punches. So defensively, Chisora's never been anything amazing, and even in this fight, defensively wasn't particularly great. Otto Wallin landed some shots, but most of Otto Wallin's shots were short punches, sort of in the clinch. They weren't shots that were probably doing a lot of damage to Chisora, but again, these are still shots that are scoring, and they led to Chisora having some cuts on his face. But nothing too major in terms of Chisora having any problems with Otto Wallin. He pretty comfortably sort of went through the fight. Obviously, there was moments when Chisora would get tired and then get his second win. But in the moments when Chisora would get tired, he would sort of naturally, as you kind of have to, just take his foot off the pedal a bit. And then Otto Wallin would kind of come back. But it was never a moment where you're like, damn, Otto Wallin might win this fight. No, I mean, Chisora pretty handedly done what Chisora done successfully and won that fight. After the fight, Chisora was saying, this won't be his last fight now. Even though this event was called The Last Dance, this won't be Chisora's last fight. He's going to have a 50th pro fight, and he gave the fans 3 options. Dubois, AJ, or Usyk. I think by far the most popular was AJ and Usyk. But don't forget, this was an IBF World Heavyweight title eliminator. So the winner of this fight would likely get a title shot against Daniel Dubois. That being said, it was kind of weird this even was a title eliminator, to be honest, because there's guys ranked above both of these guys. It's not even like they are ranked 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. There's multiple guys ahead of these guys, but I don't make the rules. IBF made it a title eliminator, so we might see Dubois v Chisora next. Chisora will probably get knocked out in that fight. He'd probably get knocked out against AJ, and Usyk already beat him. It's hard because once again, he's on like a 4-fight win streak at this point, I believe. So he's getting up to that point where like, okay, you kind of want him to face a world champion, but he's just going to lose again. But it'll be his last fight. It'll be a big payday, I imagine, against AJ or Usyk. It'll probably be a 7-figure payday against one of those guys. Dubois, maybe it's a world title shot, so may very well be a 7-figure payday as well. But obviously the biggest payday would be AJ or Usyk. And would actually be a half-decent fight for AJ to come back to. Well, which is, it's crazy how boxing works, because even though Dubois slept AJ's still the bigger star. AJ's still a bigger star than Dubois. And you saw that when Chisora brought out like the posters to see the fans to cheer for who they want, Dubois, it was damn near radio silence, right? But guys like Usyk and Joshua, it was a lot more reaction from the crowd. Obviously, he already lost to Usyk, and that was a few years ago now, and it was a somewhat competitive fight. I talked about that in the last episode of the side quest, and it was a somewhat competitive fight, but Usyk kind of just outboxed him, and Usyk's gotten even better since then, and Chisora probably hasn't. In all reality, Chisora's been taken, even in the fights he's won, he takes a lot of damage in his fights, because defensively he's not amazing. Like I said before, he'll take 2 or 3 punches for him to land 2, 3, 4 punches. And when you're like that, the older you get, the harder it is to keep taking those shots. Not that Usyk's necessarily a huge power puncher. He's not a heavyweight. And Chisora's still looking like he can go the 12 rounds. Of course, there was definitely moments when when Chisora was getting tired, of course, which is going to happen. Happens, you know what I mean? If you're a boxer fighting that style of fight, applying pressure, throwing a lot of punches at heavyweight, at 41, you're going to get tired, bro. Do you know what I mean? You're going to get tired, and Chisora at times did get tired. I think I like the AJ fight for him. Even though all 3 of those fights that he sort of showed the fans he'd lose all 3 of them. But in terms of being the most winnable for him, it probably is AJ. It probably is AJ, because AJ is probably I don't know. Daniel Dubois is pretty hittable. He is, but he's got bigger power than AJ. Like, Dubois would probably sleep Chisora. AJ would probably sleep Chisora as well, to be fair, saying that. Because AJ's a big puncher, and taking a punch from AJ at 41, 42, that's not a recipe, that's not a nice recipe, that's a recipe for disaster, that is. The Usyk fight, I guess if they want to give Usyk like a layup of a title defense, they'll do that, but I can't see that happening. Really, I'd probably see it be AJ and then they do Dubois v Usyk too, actually. And then I could see AJ winning that, and then AJ, well, he wouldn't get the winner of Dubois and Usyk because he's lost to both guys handedly already. But yeah, great win for Chisora, and he turns back the clock once again with a win over Otto Wallin. Then we'll go over to the UFC main event with Dricus Du Plessis v Sean Strickland for the UFC Middleweight Championship. And to be fair, for a guy who doesn't really like Dricus Du Plessis, that was a great performance from him. His kicks early on in the fight particularly were looking sharp. He was throwing combos in later on the fight with his boxing combos. They were a lot more technically sharp, if I could say that. Damaged Strickland, landed some big shots on Strickland, elbows. Elbows, that spinning back elbow, that was nice. The spinning back fist, I'm like, Dricus, what? I didn't know you had this in your bag, bro. I just thought you were just winging overhands and falling into takedowns. So he's definitely improving. That's the thing. Okay, look, because I'm not a Dricus hater, right? He is bad. And even now, even off that Strickland fight, he's still bad, but he's showing improvement. So I'm not going to be like, he was just as bad in this fight as he was against Izzy. No. Or how he has been before that. No. He is actually showing signs of improvement. The kicks were sharp. The kicks early on in the fight were sharp. Those were nice kicks. Got a takedown on Strickland, couldn't hold him down, and Strickland pretty much got straight back up. But damaged Strickland's nose, and that worried Strickland quite visibly, because he was starting to get on his bike, he was backpedaling quite a bit. He's bleeding, definitely broke his nose there. So, that's it, right? And Dricus, he's throwing big shots and he's landing. I mean, Strickland took it for the most part, and then 5 rounds, Dricus pretty much dominated for 5 rounds, to be honest. I'm struggling to give Strickland any of those 5 rounds, in my opinion. I would say, yeah, Dricus won all 5 rounds, and Dricus retains. I guess Khamzat's next for him. Khamzat is next for Dricus, and I'm looking at it now. I'm thinking this is not as easy of a fight for Khamzat than I originally anticipated. Khamzat would definitely take down Dricus. There's no question about that. But Khamzat will have to finish Dricus. Because over a 5-round fight, it's not looking good for Khamzat. Because if Dricus is a big guy as well. Dricus is very physical for the middleweight division. I know he fought at welterweight a while ago, but physically as a middleweight, he's very strong. He fills up very nicely at that weight division, and he's not the type of guy to get bullied. But stranger things have happened, and Khamzat bullied Robert Whittaker. Of course, Robert Whittaker kind of had that pre-existing problem with his face. But then again, Khamzat did exactly what you're supposed to do. It's not like Khamzat fell into that submission and that didn't mean to happen. When Khamzat has you in that position, when any of these brother style wrestlers have you in that position and they do a face crank, that's what's going to happen, bro. It's going to squash your face. And that's exactly what we did to Robert Whittaker. Dricus can't give Khamzat an inch. If he gives him an inch, Khamzat will submit him. He'll grab him in a Kimura, rear naked, face crank, something. But if Dricus fights Strickland, if Dricus fights Khamzat how he fought Strickland, then he's got a chance. Because he was throwing big shots. And we don't know if Khamzat can take those big shots. Because Dricus will be the biggest puncher out middleweight that Khamzat's ever faced. When you put it like that, that'll be the biggest puncher he's ever faced. Because he didn't really get a chance to strike with Robert Whittaker. Gilbert Burns and Usman, they're welterweights. So that fight is now a lot closer than what I would have thought originally. In my opinion, I still think Khamzat will win that because he's got the minerals to beat a guy like Dricus in terms of just the wrestling and the takedowns. And to be fair, I could even see, like I said, I could see Dricus taking him down, to be fair, but once he takes him down, I don't think much will happen. I think Khamzat will be able to get up pretty quickly. But Khamzat will force those scrambles. And over a 5-round fight, we know Khamzat hasn't got the gas tank to go 5 rounds. You know, we know Khamzat hasn't got the gas tank to go 5 rounds and keep forcing those scrambles. Dricus can. Dricus can continue to force those scrambles and continue to do it for 5 rounds. Khamzat can do it for 1 or 2 rounds. So it's definitely given us some food for thought for that one. So yeah, that's been it from me. Episode 22 of the Seth Solo Side Quest. We talked about Dereck Chisora's win, and we talked about Dricus Du Plessis' win. I'm probably going to record a few more episodes, maybe today, and we'll see what happens with that. Been it from me. I'm Seth from the Lone Solo Podcast. It's episode 21 of the Seth Solo Side Quest, and I'm out. Peace.